Welcome to Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. It is a Monday. We're live from the HCCTV studios. Good to have you with us. Welcome to our HCC audience and our friends out there watching us on Facebook Live and YouTube. We're also on HCCTV as well. I know it's a Monday, but we'll deal with that. We're back into a brand new week. Alberta is joining me as my co-host this morning. Good to see you, Alberta.
Good to see you, Todd. Good morning.
Now, you're having a little bit of problems with your voice. Was it a long weekend for you?
Oh, yeah. It was a long weekend.
One thing, everybody seems to be getting a cold or getting sick again, but there's one thing that's scaring me right now. If you look over what's happening in Europe and the UK, they're seeing a big spike in COVID cases. There's that new variant out. So that kind of scares me a bit, because we're usually here in the States, maybe 3 to 4 weeks behind what happens across the rest of the world. So here we go again, hopefully This won't be a big wave this time, huh?
Yeah. Luckily, I choose to stay inside most of the time. So
yeah,
it's going to stay away whenever you
especially now.
Yeah.
All right. We are on Facebook Live and YouTube, but folks can also catch us anytime in social media and also in HCCTV.
Yes, you can catch us anytime live on Houston Community College District Facebook and YouTube page. And you can also find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and on HCCTV, noon, 5, and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday.
That's exactly right. Are you going to make it today, or okay? Put the coffee down. Go get some tea and lemon, and we'll give you about a 10-minute break so you can rest your voice a little bit. Because you're going to be interviewing this next guest. We've got David White joining us, and David is the director of Instrumental Ensembles. David, good to see you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And if folks haven't seen it yet, because we haven't released it yet, but I also want to thank you for being in the I Love HCC campaign, because you're proudly in that campaign as well.
Yeah, it was great. This has been a great institution so far to work with. So I definitely feel blessed just to be here.
All right. Well, folks will see that soon. We'll be sharing that in social media. Meanwhile, stick around. We're going to check in with you in about 10 minutes. All right, we're going to kick things off. It is Mental Health Monday, and one of our favorite guests, Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, joins us. He's the executive director of the Jung Center of Houston. He's our Mental Health Monday guest. Sean, good to see you.
Hey, Todd, it's really good to see you too.
We're going to talk about a very unpleasant topic. Hate is a very strong word. It really is a word that really very polarizing, and it's a very uncomfortable subject, but we deal a lot with it today, especially with social media. We had the recent trial of the 3 men who were convicted of killing Ahmaud Arbery, and that brought up a lot of feelings inside of people, especially since these men were convicted of hate crimes. What is hate? Why is it such a strong word?
So it's a strong word because it's a very strong emotion. It's a very strong feeling. And hate, from the American Psychological Association, hate has a very simple definition for it. Hate is a hostile emotion combining intense feelings of detestation, anger, and often a desire to do harm. And it has become a very important word in a legal context and a cultural context in the last century, less than that actually, as hate crimes legislation have been passed, which seek to define hate in relationship to bias. So bias or hate crimes, bias or hate incidents are actions that individuals take based on their qualification of their decision that a person belongs to a certain class of people. And that could be because of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their race, their ethnicity, a range of different categories. Fundamentally, bias is a belief system. So it's a judgment that one person or one group of people is better or worse than another group of people. Hate is the feeling that accompanies it. And so those two components, hate and bias, are used together because both are very important when we're talking about the effects of hate in our communities.
When someone says, I hate a certain person or a certain group of people, can you define that also as with ignorance and fear?
So, God, that's a great question. So fear, I think fear is an important component of this. Though I want to take a step back and say, again, there's the personal and then the collective experience of hate. And hate is a corrosive feeling. But I want us to just stop and say, before we ignore what we're feeling, we have to notice it, right? Before we can address it, we have to notice it and accept it. Hate is not pleasant. It is definitely not pro-social, but it's a part of being a human being. We're going to experience hate at points in our life, and it may come out of a space of feeling threatened. It may also, and I think often when we're talking about hate incidents, come out of a place of not having experience with the people who are being judged, who are the subjects of bias, and to your point about ignorance, simply not having enough information.
How does social media play into hate these days? I mean, it seems like this country is more polarized than we've ever been in history at this point.
Yeah.
Does that play into hate with the event of social media? I mean, you scroll through it, you see a lot of things in social media that can be pretty hateful, pretty ignorant, and can really rile you up.
Absolutely. And I have to say, social media does a couple of things. One thing it does is it separates us from the actual human being. So we can make a sweeping judgment. We can act out of a place of intense feeling without consequence, or with very minimal consequence, right? In an online space. Whereas if we were in person, we would, if we acted in those ways, we would be subject to all kinds of social and perhaps personal and perhaps physical consequence. But also we might not get to the place where we have the hate experience in the first place, because we are able to identify the person as a person and not simply as an idea or a convenient scapegoat. So I think social media is a very difficult space in which hate doesn't just proliferate, it's consciously evoked, because it is used as a way to motivate groups of people toward the agendas of those people who are instigating it, right? Yeah.
I want to talk about the psychological dynamics. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about this, especially something, you have an acronym called FLOTSAM. Tell us about that.
It's not my acronym. I deeply respect the work of Robert Sternberg, who's at Cornell University, and he's published a couple of books on this topic, including an edited volume that came out just a couple of years ago. So this is his acronym, FLOTSAM. And what he does is it's his theory of the development and transmission of hate in organizations or across communities. So it stands for fear, right? To your point earlier, people experience fear, then they might be motivated to experience hate. License, which means that they feel they have the capacity to act, right? Obedience to authority, so fairly straightforward, and also trust. They trust the authority. They have a sense of belonging within their own in-group, right? So by virtue of experiencing hate toward another, I am a part of this group, and that intensifies that feeling of belonging. Amplification of arousal means simply that they feel more. And when we feel more, these natural biological systems kick in. Like when we feel threatened, we have these natural biological systems that kick in and drive us to act. And then the M in FLOTSAM is modeling. So they see other people expressing hate and intensifying hate and acting through hate. And so that is how these dynamics expand across groups in the collective.
The Jung Center is a member of a local organization, the Houston Coalition Against Hate. Tell us more about that and how people, if they want to reach out to this coalition, how they can help them.
Absolutely. So the Houston Coalition Against Hate is a network of now, I think, in the neighborhood of 60 organizations, more than 60 organizations, community-based organizations, arts and culture institutions like the Jung Center, religious institutions, all kinds of advocacy organizations, and actually individuals and leaders who come together to reduce hate and to encourage belonging. And we do it through prevention efforts. We do it through research, wonderful ongoing research, both about the incidence of hate acts in our community, and also about the needs that organizations have, the preparedness that organizations have to address hate crime and hate incidents. And they're just a fantastic group. I'm a proud member, and I'm always deeply affected by my exposure to the work of the coalition. So if people were interested in getting more involved, HoustonAgainstHate.org is the email, is the website address.
And we'll have that website address in our social media post, along with information about the Jung Center, which is open and running. Sean, I imagine you got a lot of good things happening this week.
We do. We have actually within the next few days, we'll have a new exhibit by the artist John Faul, Faul, which we're really looking forward to. If you happen to be interested in the movies and psychology, next Monday I've got I'm actually teaching a class called Popcorn Psychology. The movie this month is Bridesmaids. So if you'd like to, if you've watched Bridesmaids, you want to watch it, then you can jump in and join the conversation about that film next Monday night.
Sean, it's always good to see you. We appreciate you joining us every month here for the segment.
Thanks so much, Todd. It's good to see you. Take care.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn things over to Alberta. And Alberta, you've got a very special guest from our music department.
Yes, we do. We have Mr. David White, HCC's Director of Instrumental Ensembles. Thank you for joining us today, David. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. You're welcome. So let's begin by telling us about your role as HCC's Ensemble Director and how HCC fits into the educational landscape of music.
Well, I came into HCC this year, and what I was pretty much tasked to do was kind of rebuilding our instrumental music programs. At once upon a time, historically, HCC had a very, very, very strong one. I think due to COVID, some other factors, it's just impacted it. So this is what I've been tasked to do, and it's been going very well. We started off the year with not many students involved, and it's been growing ever since. And going into next year, anticipated, we have about 48 students that will be joining our ensemble. That's up from 5 that initially started at the beginning of the semester. So it's exciting. And particularly because when we do look at the city of Houston and the surrounding communities, HCC plays a vital role in how music is taught and how students are able to go through the process. Houston ISD in particular is an amazing district, whereas many students in other districts may not have the opportunity to start music in high school or start music later on in middle school. Our teachers, they do take students on as late as seniors. And so a lot of times students may not necessarily have the experience. They have the talents, they have the fortitude to do, they just don't have the experience. And I think that's where HCC plays a vital role in helping these students through the process of giving them some time after high school in order to build those foundations. The students will get their first 2 years of their bachelor's degree through our associate's program. So when they do matriculate up to a 4-year university, they're able to go in on equal keel with all the other students and then continue on in their process. And particularly because we have 7 major universities that surround the HCC, we become an important link between the high school and that bachelor's experience.
Wow. I mean, the term that like music can save lives, it's like you're actually showing how that can happen by providing like all these opportunities for people who want to find something that really pulls at their heartstrings, like music. It does for everybody. So, can you tell us what you believe is the state of instrumental music?
Well, When we look at instrumental music, it's kind of interesting. So part of my research as a musician is music sociology. So I've been really looking at not just music as a performance outlet or music as an educational career pathway, but how music kind of fits into society. So when we look at how music is impacting the culture of the city, the way I really do look at it is trying to create an institution where students are able to use their talents, use their skills, use their passions, and go out to different areas. Many times people do look at music as I'm either going to perform it or I'm going to teach it, but there are several different fields that you can get a career in. And this is where I feel like our passions lie. So as we're building this instrumental music ensemble, so we can put on performances, quality performances, so we can highlight those student skills, so we can also integrate HCC into the city and creating these performers. It creates a global sense of who we are and what music can be to society.
Hey, that's awesome. Do you ever have students or those participants come back to you and tell you like what they want to do with that once they progress? Like, do they want to pursue becoming a musician full time, or like, do they want to teach after that because they've been inspired?
Oh, that's very interesting. So it's an interesting story. This year, being my first year, I've actually had several students that I have had in the past, either middle school or high school level, that have come to HCC wanting to develop their music skills, and even having some students that have been at the four-year university want to come back. And they explore a lot of things. So some of them want to go into music therapy, which is a medical branch of music where they are looking to heal body, heal mind, and heal soul through music. There's also music composition, music arranging, where they actually deal with the creation of the music itself. And then there's other industries when you deal with the technical side of music, where you may be a sound engineer. So there's a lot of different pathways, but many of the students, they love the idea that here at HCC, they can build that foundation and then go out from there, instead of it simply being, I will go in and I will be a teacher, or if I'm not good enough to be a performer, I'll be a teacher. So it provides those many pathways. So that's one thing that I love, the fact that we're getting a lot of students coming here pursuing different avenues within music.
Oh yeah, it actually just keeps HCC like held to its name, like a place where you actually get the hands-on experience that you need to help you figure out what exactly you want to do with this. There's so many aspects of that, and I think that's amazing. So, do you what about the future plans for instrumental music? What do you?
Well, I know what we're planning, what the overarching goal, the long-term goal, as far as the ensembles are concerned, is to build back to beyond what it was before, where we have a major symphony orchestra that incorporates all the different instruments. So in an orchestra, you would have all the strings, the woodwinds, the brass. We do have some harp students that we're looking at to come to HCC in the upcoming years. And, also this also includes our classical guitar programs, and we do have piano programs. So we do have the standard orchestral instruments and wind band instruments, but then we also have those other instruments that students can also pursue as a solo career, like piano and harp, or we have other things. So it expands. And we do have a jazz program where students that play guitar, bass guitar, drum set, they can also be part of HCC's instrumental program too. So we do have some wonderful professors that teach our jazz programs. Professor Susan Hines, who's the department chair, she's making sure that we build a very concrete program that can live on and grow, again, to serve all the different schools, different types of music in Houston. In Houston ISD, there's classical music, as most people do see, but there's also jazz and mariachi. So there's a lot of different types of music that we hope to serve.
Okay. So let's talk about the obstacles that you face, such as COVID and those that may come ahead.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of people, I'm actually on a bi-weekly meeting with people from around the country, fine arts directors, and we do talk about the whole idea of how COVID has impacted instrumental music when it comes down to just students participating, and it comes down to learning loss for students that may be coming in as freshmen here. The last time they may have seriously played may have been sophomore. So there's several years of lag that the students are trying to catch up. That also is a little bit disheartening, where a lot of times we think 18, being a senior, is the magic age where your skills have to be at a certain level, and some of them are discouraged. So I do encourage all those students to look beyond that age and say, well, there is a pathway and there is help to get you there. So that's been a big obstacle in building us back up to where we were. There's always financial obstacles that we hope to, and we're planning on trying to build some programs to build beyond that. And in particular, developing scholarship programs. I know many times a mark of achievement for students is I have received a scholarship. And so, and that's one thing we have to communicate about HCC is that there are scholarships available. But even if you look apples to apples as far as the tuition to a four-year university for those first 2 years, because we are competing with those people for the first 2 years, comparatively, we have a much better pricing model. They're going to get the exact same courses that they would take anywhere else. So it's really communicating that message, providing those opportunities, letting those opportunities be known to general society, and then helping those students that may feel that it's too late for them or that they're so far behind that it's just going to be too much, and let them know that HCC is here for them to help them get past those hurdles.
Well, that's fantastic. So what are your professional goals outside of HCC?
Well, I plan on, originally I was going to be pursuing my PhD just before COVID hit, and that postponed things. And then I actually have a daughter that's in high school. So now that she's a freshman, that's postponing things a little bit more. But I do plan on pursuing my degree in sociology, my PhD in sociology. With the idea of studying music sociology and how music and society interacts and how music impacts society and how society impacts music. I think it's important for us to understand this. As my former guest today was talking about just society in general and how we see each other and how we interact with each other. Another thing that we look at is the artifacts that are in society, music being one of those, and how we use music as a tool and how music impacts us. And I think the more understanding we have of this and how it impacts our educational institution, how it impacts our performance venues, and how it impacts even the music that goes out into the world, I think we're going to be healthier for that. So those are that's the research and a lot of things I put into that. And music sociology, the area I'll be focused on, it's been around for a while. It's very heavy in UK. There are a few institutions here in the United States that do focus on music sociology, but that's my intended goals to work on that area.
Okay, so did you want to pursue music sociology? Did your position now lead you to want to do that, or is that something that you were already wanting to do?
Interesting. So one of my mentors, Dr. Carol Smith, who is the former orchestra director at Sam Houston State University, were talking to me about conducting symphony orchestras. So I had actually made a decision to do that. She gave me some books. And one of the wonderful books that she gave me, the American Symphony Orchestra, published in 1951 by John Mueller, took a historical look at music in America. And most of the times you look at it in a sense of the historiography of music, look at the major characters, Mozart, Beethoven, but this took a different look at it. It took at how these orchestras evolved based on the social environments in which they lived. So it looked at the New York Philharmonic and all the factors that caused it to come into play. As I read this book, I realized that many of those factors that we look at that existed back in 1929, they still exist, they're still relevant, and I think they're worth study. So that way, when we do look at why music education sometimes isn't supported, why do students suffer? We also look at the idea of how are these students going through the music education? How do they interact with society once they leave music education programs? And what does it mean to be a musician in today's world? Is it really just about commercial entities where they're making money, or is this about expression of self, or what is this? So that's where my heart just kind of went in that direction to really come back, make it full circle, and pull all the different entities together and have that serious conversation of what is music, why is music, and who are the players, and how do we impact each other?
So for someone that largely appreciates music, I can tell you now that I can see how that will benefit everyone that is under your wing, everyone that you teach or you instruct. That's the kind of knowledge from an instructor that as a student that we look for, someone who applies real life passion to bringing it to the students in the Houston community altogether. So your career has had you rubbing elbows with a lot of elected officials, so that must have been really thrilling for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience for you?
Absolutely. Just being an educator within the public school system. I've been an educator in the private school and charter school system. So I've taught kindergarten to college. So I had an opportunity to actually meet some very interesting people. I've met the current mayor before he was mayor and had some very interesting conversations. He's a very knowledgeable person and really works hard to make sure everybody is successful. I've had an opportunity to meet Sheila Jackson Lee, and she, again, she's always been a fighter for everybody out in the world and equity and fairness. And so those have provided me a lot of opportunities, and also just meeting people around the country where I was talking, I've had a chance to meet with the leaders, the fine arts leaders of the Boston Public School District in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. It's just getting around the country and seeing how other people in the world get impacted and what does it look like there. There are a lot of common factors, and there are a lot of factors that are unique to the Houston and surrounding areas. I've met some gentlemen in Tennessee in those public school systems and how their area kind of on a smaller scale looks just like us. And so we've had interesting conversations. So yeah, just having the opportunity to meet all these wonderful people has an amazing impact on my life and in researching my work.
I can tell. So I understand that you've done some research into music sociology, well, a lot of research.
Right.
So can you tell us a little about that, including your personal long-term goals?
Sure. So I guess I have two current research projects that I'm really working on. One of them is going into dealing with students that have special needs and developing systems and putting in place and understanding how they fit into the fabric, and also dealing with music sociology in a sense of creating an introductory type textbook. So that way colleges and institutions can maybe use this as a course in order to start really bringing this as full circle as far as helping their students understand what music sociology is and how it can be used.
Alberta and David, thanks for being here on the show. We appreciate you joining us, and look for David in social media soon with his I Love HCC video. Thanks, David.
Thank you very much.
All right, real quickly, quick announcements. We've got to let everybody know the Stafford campus currently has a power outage. Classes at the Stafford campus are canceled through 11 a.m. today through 11 a.m. this morning on Monday. And I want to let everybody know that registration is going on for the summer right now, and for the fall, you can check out the schedule starting April 11th. Registration starts on the 25th. hccs.edu/apply is the location you want to go. Tomorrow on the show, Alberta, we've got some special guests who are going to be joining us. Nakia Edwards, who is the interim executive director of adult education and literacy. She'll be talking about a very special program. The Change Your Life for $20 program. It's something we've been doing here at HCC for quite some time. We will continue that tomorrow as well. And it's Tasty Tuesday, which means we've got a special guest. We're going to take a look at the Space Cowboy, which is located in this new hotel in the Heights. It's called the Heights House Hotel. It's got a 60s vibe to it. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen it in social media, Alberta, but it's pretty cool.
I've never heard of that. It sounds really cool.
All right. So that'll be on the show tomorrow. Okay. So rest your voice, get some meds in you, and see if you can get it back for Thursday when you join us again, right?
I will. I promise.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Up to the Minute is the show. We're on every morning. HCC is in session. Tomorrow morning, we'll see you live, 10 a.m. right here.